Hi sophomores, this is Dr. Bradley with a short presentation on religious trends, religious roots in British colonial North America. This will help us to understand the Salem witchcraft trials. So there were a lot of fundamental beliefs held in common by colonial Americans. Nearly all colonists believed in a personal God who created the universe and was active in their lives on a daily basis. More than 85% of the colonists accepted the divinity of Christ, and more than 90% of the colonists were Protestants. Almost all colonists believed in the immortality of the soul and in an afterlife as a reward for punishment. Therefore, they were focused on a daily basis on what happened to them in their life on earth, what impact this had on their destination after death. Finally, better than 90% of the colonists accepted the Bible as the inspired revelation of God's will. Even though there was a large degree of agreement about the belief of Christianity, there was much intolerance based on disagreements among the various sects, which today we might find quite surprising. So some things to know. The Calvinists, who were Puritan, the Puritans were Calvinists, were also known as separatists and non-separatists and Congregationalists. They believed, in short view, that God predestined man for heaven or for hell, and that material success on earth was a sign that God had selected one for heaven, but that in fact there was nothing one could do in this life to change one's destiny. Quakers believed that a sign of being saved was having a dialogue with God. Catholics, who were not Protestants, believe that salvation comes through faith in Christ and doing good works on earth, with the Pope acting as an infallible guide. And so unlike many Protestants, and specifically the Calvinists, the Catholics believed that one could have an impact in this life on where one went in the afterlife. Anglicans were similar to the Catholics, but they denied the papal authority, the authority of the Pope. And Lutherans believe that one is saved by having faith in Christ and studying the Bible. Efforts at tolerance were weak during colonial times, but a few precedents were established that would aid future growth in tolerance. One important example of this was in the colony of Maryland. In 1649, the colonial legislature passed the Maryland Toleration Act, which granted toleration to all Christians, but not to atheists or Jews. The laws of Pennsylvania required that no taxes be used to support a particular church, and that freedom of worship was guaranteed to all residents. However, Catholics and Jews were denied the right to vote and to hold office even in Pennsylvania, which was the most tolerant of the colonies. Was there separation of church and state? In some colonies, such as Virginia, the Anglican Church became the established church, which meant that residents of the colony were required to support it, whether they were members or not, support it with taxes. Also, in many colonies, to hold political office, one had to belong to the official church of that colony. The Congregational Church, for example, was tax-supported in New England. So now let's focus a little bit more on New England and the Puritans. Who were they and what did they believe? So they were divided into two groups: the Separatists, who were the Pilgrims who landed at Plymouth Rock, who were the most pure, and the non-Separatists, who were the majority of the Puritans who landed in Massachusetts Bay. They believed in the concept of predestination, which I mentioned earlier, which basically said that God had decided whether one was going to heaven or hell before one's birth, and so what one actually did on earth was not supposed to change that destiny. They believed, however, that on earth you could tell by the behavior of people whether they were headed for heaven, and those people were known as the elect. They also believed in a conversion experience, which means that they believed that during adolescence, people who were destined to be the elect would have a meeting with God and experience a conversion, and that this would be evidenced by their behavior in their daily life, in their work ethic and their success on earth. And the Puritans relied a lot on community control to keep one another in order. I'm going to stop there and continue this in the next video, so please check for that link.